Okay, so this is another tutorial for tessellations. The I'm starting from a file that I did in previous tutorials. You probably have seen it. I have enclosed to this ellipse that a student did. We first did the nMesh smooth option 2. We applied to that object selecting and nMesh enclosed. I'm not going to do it because I did it. This little guy comes here and it will deform in time. That's why I changed it to 500 versus 224 that we have by default, changing here to 500. And then what I did is also select this guy, and in nucleus in the attribute editor um, I put some wind. You see 37. I'm gonna just decrease that a little, actually just a little too much, and the direction is X, so it's gonna like deform the wind in this direction. It's gonna push this geometry in this direction of the X. You always have to check that here, what is X, Z, and Y. After that, I pretty much right click, went to vertex and select these vertex, the ones that are in blue. Then I'm going to do it again. And after selecting those vertex, I say transform. So basically that end constraint transform, that constrains it in a way that everything is going to be affected by cloth, gravity, etc., and wind, except those points, which are going to stay exactly in the same position. So that's the point of I'm going to play it and just leave it a little moment here, so we have interesting shapes, but not too much. There we go, there we go. And I'm going to just stop it there quite soon. And I'm going to pretty much work with this for the tessellation concepts that I'm going to explore in this set of video tutorials. Okay, so I'm going to basically I'm going to go to save as and all this, so I can start working with this guy. But basically I'm going to delete all by type history of this guy, and you can pretty much delete all the stuff that you should be encountering. You can the end particles enclosed. You can also, but if you do that, for example, you see how it doesn't remember this. It goes like back, so we have to be careful with that. Let's leave it here, and let's work with this. Okay, delete by type history all. So we start with this object that still has cloth, but it's fine. Okay, the next step is basically try to erase, delete the N, so Control H to this guy. I'm also going to do Control H to the constraint. I don't really want to see it. Let me see if I press 4 and I select it. Control H. I don't want to see things, and probably needed this guy. Control H. I want just the geometry and deformity. Remember, this is like in the middle of a precision, so let's see what we can do, and do not play this. We're gonna do the next following step that I think I did the tutorial before, but I'm gonna repeat it again. I'm gonna right click and say faces, and I'm gonna go to paint faces. Sorry, right click faces, and I'm gonna paint some of them. You see how I'm gonna press 5 so you can see it. You can change the radius of the paint by double clicking here. This comes out, and I'm gonna do this, and I think the radius is too big, so probably a bit smaller. There you go. You can start painting some of these guys. Painting these guys. You know, just do your own, whatever selection that you're interested in. Good. Okay, and I'm basically selecting, not painting. I'm selecting faces through the paintbrush selection tool. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to close this, and now the next step obviously is go to Q to get out of that and go to selection. I'm going to with the faces. I'm going to shift right click, and I'm going to extrude face. First of all, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to polygons here and make sure that edit mesh, this guy's uncheck. Okay, keep faces together. You always have two options for extrusion, as you know. One is keep them together. No, I don't want to keep them together. So we don't want to keep it together in this first step. And this I've done many times in class and in the previous tutorial that you can see in this same list. So let's shift right click after unchecking this guy and do the extrusion. immediately the toggle for extrusion appears, which is the classic as well. And what we're going to do is a very simple thing, is go to the toggle, the blue guy, and let me see if we can see it. I'm going to press 4, and I'm going to press the box of the blue arrow, the box, pressing Control, and take it up a little bit, not too much, just a bit, and depending on the geometry it could be more difficult or less. Okay, sorry, Control C. I think it's going crazy, my computer. No, Control C to go to that selection. There you go. And see if it works now by Control the box and up a little bit. There you go. They're actually being smaller, the faces. I'm extruding within the same direction. Let's press 5. Within the same direction of the faces. Now this we can delete it. So, delete. Very good. And now what we're going to do is the next step is basically going to edit mesh and make sure that this one is checked now, not unchecked. So it has to be like this. Okay. And now I'm going to select all the faces of this guy. Select the object, right click faces, select all the faces, and I don't know if it's going to be because my computer's quite not too good, so I'm going to basically shift right click and extrude face. It's going to come the same gizmo. There we go. So we go in this time to the blue guy, but not the box, but the arrow. We don't have to press Control or anything. I'm going to press that and take it out. In this case, could be in depending on your geometry. Depending if out for you is interfering with other geometries, you probably want to do in, etc. So it's very pretty much your own choice of where you want to extrude. So what that's doing basically, let's see, it's quite heavy. I'm gonna right click, and object mode, and let's see what it did. Basically extruded and withhold the deformation of the deleted faces. So this is quite very nice to have as a geometry to render and explore potentials for perforations within the model. So this is something to render probably a little bit more closely and to get that kind of texture at the same time, holes. Okay, so I'm going to render and pause it there and see what we get. Okay, looks quite great, I would say. Just to let you know, the previous tutorial had bigger perforations comparing to this one. This one is because we did a smooth mesh of 2, remember, option. So all the faces are smaller, as simple as that. You apply a smooth mesh, you have smaller faces, therefore the extrusion and deleting of the faces, and afterwards another extrusion creates smaller perforations. Now I will encourage you guys to say, I like this one very much, but what else could I get out of this? And probably visit this area, for example, and get closer with the camera, starting getting like a snapshot or like a more of a zoom in type of rendering of this area, and it will be quite amazing. Or some areas are very interesting here, or up and down, or this is an option to get inside and see how the light goes through this perforation. Now, another thing is that here we are in the option 3, smooth mesh. That's why the holes are, or the perforations are round. Now we can always say 1, and we have the same, but in a not soft, not relaxed surface. So it could be as interesting, and we'll see this, we'll show this later on for interior rendering, to why not explore morphologies that are interesting. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there, and I'll get to next tessellation performance.